everyone. So I am doing my, favorite books of 2024, the books that I really liked, gave, 5 or 4 stars. 4 or 5 stars. And I'm not going to do everyone, but, just ones that really kind of like stood out to me. So the first one I'll talk about, this one here I read in January this year. So it was The Phantom of Drury Lane. This was The Scandals and Scoundrels of Drury Lane, book number 5. Now, I believe this was a part of a series that you had multiple authors who were in this series, that it was basically all around either this theater or it was all around the general area. So you have the characters in here of Lucia Montgomery and William Arden. He's the Viscount Ware. So this does have like open door sex on page. There was a book that she did that was not, it was more closed door. So I think that's why I wrote down, open door sex on page. So Lucy Montgomery sees Will Arden after 3 years of being away traveling, and she's not happy about it because all he has done for years is tease her. He is her brother's best friend. So Will has been pining for Lucy for years, and one night years ago they kissed. He pushed her away then because he wasn't willing at the time to get married. Since the war ended and it has left him scarred, he sees Lucy and realizes it's a second chance for him to make things right and to finally make Lucy his. I enjoyed this quick novella. You could see the mutual pining both of these characters had for each other. And when Lucy gets challenged to find out who the Phantom at the theater is, Will sets out to show Lucy how he feels about her. So that was pretty good. I did enjoy that. I ended up giving that one 5 stars. And the next one, I would say, I'd probably say I would talk about, let me go into it. Since the next book is something that's a part of a series, I'll talk about the whole set. So I ended up reading this year, Sanctuary, Homestead, and Beacon, by Claire Kent. She also goes by Noelle Adams, but Noelle Adams, hers are more regular contemporary romances, where Claire Kent does more, like different other ones. Like she's done some alien ones, like In Outer Space. She's done, this series here that's called the Kindle series, where it's post-apocalyptic. So these ones here I've been reading since the first book. I will say, I've talked about this before, if you want to delve into the series, it's best to start with Last Light first. I consider that a prequel to the series. She doesn't consider it, but I do, because those characters, you do see them in the Kindle series. So that's why I would say that one is a prequel. So I definitely would start off with Last Light first. This one here, we got Sanctuary, Homestead, and Beacon. Now, Sanctuary basically had to do with a different duo you see within the series. It's not like the same characters that you saw throughout the whole series. Claire Kent basically introduced us to some new characters for 2 of the books. So the one book I did not like, that was the book before. That was the book before Sanctuary. I think it was called Citadel. I didn't like that one. I didn't like the heroine. But this one here with Sanctuary, you have a woman who dealt with a lot of stuff during the post-apocalyptic. Her sister that was in Citadel, this sister here did her best to protect her younger sister from bad stuff. And so she would go, and her name is Brianna. That's what it is, Brianna. Brianna would do stuff in order to get them to survive. So she needed to sleep with a man in order to help them protect, them. She would do it. So she has obviously did it for a while, and it's made her a bit bitter about men. Don't blame her. So she's, now that they aren't in like harm's way anymore, and her sister is, dang it, I should have taken a nap. Her sister is now being taken care of by this other guy that was in Citadel. So Brianna's like, well, my sister doesn't really need me anymore. Now I can, she wants to find some other purpose for herself. So she decides to be one of these carriers where you go around different areas and you collect things that, trading and all that stuff. Like you trade something for this, and then you go back to, your little community, and you have like medical supplies, different things like that. So she decides to go on these runs. Well, this other guy that's doing the runs, Aiden, he's mad because she's now basically competing with him. So they end up in this area where this lady's like, hey, I'll have you both compete, and then whoever comes back with this first, I'll let you work for me from now on. So they basically start to do that, and then they end up, there ends up being like a storm, and so they have to hide out in this church because she ends up injuring her ankle, and he feels bad for her. So, they go into the church, and then they start to get to know each other through that forced proximity and end up falling for each other. So that was Sanctuary. And then you have Homestead. Homestead's basically like this young lady, her and her grandfather were living in this house that was like self-sustaining. The grandfather had like prepared it before the I'm trying to find the book. Chloe, her name's Chloe. Chloe's grandfather was very much like a hoarder and all that stuff. Like he like one of those prepared people, he definitely was one of them. And he had like solar power stuff and different things like that that were very like, it was very self-sustaining. He did a really good job with this place. I'm like, shit, yeah, let me to go to that place, very, very self-sustaining, place, things that they can grow and all that stuff. So they end up kind of getting low on food, and they decide to go down to the area because they were basically in this wild area. And they go down to the city area, and the grandfather ends up getting shot and killed. And so she's trying to get away from these bad guys that are trying to chase after her. And this one guy, Jimmy, who is a part of this farming community, he comes across her and ends up saving her. And he ends up taking her back to his farming community where they, try to keep the bad element out and all that stuff. So he is attracted to her, and he tells her that he wouldn't mind having her as his wife, and then he'll treat her really good. He'll take care of her and, help him be like a partner with taking care of the house and stuff like that, like help him, with farming and all this other stuff. And, basically she'd be a housewife, which some women would absolutely hate nowadays. But, for me, I'll be like, hey, if that's the trade I have, where this guy's going to do all the farming and I got to, I'm doing all the cooking and cleaning of the house and taking care of all the things that need to be taken care of in the house-wise, no problem. No problem. I'll do that. If it means you got a roof over your head, yeah, do it. So that's basically what she does. And then as they're getting to know each other, because he's really gentle and nice with her, and as they're getting to know each other, they start to fall for each other. And, they're having sex and all that stuff, but he's bringing her pleasure. He doesn't want to just like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. He wants her to have pleasure too. So I'm like, man, sounds like a pretty good guy to me, So I'm like, when you're in that type of situation, hell yeah. I will definitely, okay, I'll take Jimmy. I will take him. If it means he's going to take care of me, he's not going to treat me well, he's not going to treat me badly, and, you know, we take care of like the household stuff, I don't mind like farming stuff, you know. It can be hard, you know, obviously it's difficult and it's, you know, backbreaking work, you know, it is hard work to be a farmer, no doubt about it. You know, I've seen people like, man, they do a lot. They do a lot, you know. It's a hard work, but to me, it's like, it's worthwhile, especially if you don't have like anything else that you're doing, you know, on the land. You're like, you're taking care of like your land and all that stuff, and it's helping to provide for you. Why not, you know? So that was pretty good. I really liked that one. And I liked how, you know, he was like gentle with her and really kind of like set the pace where he's like, hey, you know, I'm not going to force you to do whatever you don't want to do, you know? And so they, you know, frequently would have sex and stuff like that. And it got like more emotional, like there's more, you know, emotion behind it, you know, as they were performing, you know, as they were doing it and everything like that. And he did a lot of taking care of her, you know, and he was a good dude. He was a good guy. He was lonely, you know, he was lonely. He wanted a partner, and, you know, she came along and he was attracted to her. And then, you know, the more she's around him, the more she starts to feel like this attraction to him too, you know, but she feels like inadequate because her grandfather, very much like took care of her and did a lot for her. And this here, it's like she has more responsibility of like how to do the cooking and how to clean and how to do all these different things, you know. So he had to help her and help teach her different stuff on how to farm, you know, because you need to know how to do it. So she felt very kind of like helpless or inadequate, and he had to kind of like keep reminding her like, no, you don't know, no, you're fine, you know, like he was fine with her being the way she was, you know. And I appreciated about him with that, because he was so sweet to her, you know. And so I'm like, heck yeah, dude who like worships you and, you know, worships you and wants a helpmate, you know, heck yeah, you know, why not? And then with Beacon, that's the last book in that series that I really pretty much enjoyed in this series. And like I said, I did a review for that one, so I won't delve too deeply into this one because I did my own individual review for that. I did that, you know, in November. So if anybody hasn't watched that, I have the video in November where it talks about my October, November wrap up, and I did like about, you know, 40-minute video of talking about Beacon. So it's basically like a second chance and a scarred man who, you know, like mentally scarred and everything like that, who is dealing with a lot of issues. And so his ex comes along and tries to get him to, you know, open up and have them have their second chance of, you know, of love. So that one was pretty good. Like it was very complex, had a lot of layers to it. I would say like I didn't love it, so that's why I ended up giving it 4 stars, but I did really enjoy it. You know, I did really enjoy that one. So the next one I'll talk about is I ended up starting this series here, which I really liked. So this one here is Emma Hamm's series here, where I can't remember the name of it. Let me see if there's a name of it for this series. Yeah, it's called Deep Waters. So we have the first book in the series, then the second book was in, I'd say the prequel to the Deep Water series was in the Lovely Dark Anthology. And then the next book was Song of the Abyss, which is book 2. So I liked this whole series. I thought it was pretty good. I would say like the third book in the series, I was not a fan of it. I ended up DNFing it. But these books here, I really enjoyed. So with Whispers of the Deep, you have these characters where Argus, he's what they call an undine. And undines are like these sea creatures that look like mermen. And they have like these fins and they have these scales and just different stuff like that to them, the long hair and everything like that. And so Argus comes across Mina. Mina she works in this dome in the ocean as an engineer. And so she's trying to fix this crack, and Argus comes up close to the glass and he sees her, and he ends up hitting the area that's leaking. So it causes this huge, bigger leak, and she ends up going into this other area of the facility, and he ends up, swimming through the area that ended up getting flooded. So now they have to basically repair that area and drain out all the water. So obviously a lot of damage. But that's what they do to help maintain their area. And Undines do not like, I can't remember what they call humans, but they don't like humans because in this world, the surface level of the world, of the planet, it's dealing with a lot of like natural disasters, hurricanes, thunderstorms, all kinds of stuff that's going through. And so humans can't live up in that area anymore. I mean, you could possibly say the author might be talking about global warming, climate change, things like that. She possibly could be saying that, but it wasn't something that I would say was like hammered in, so you could pretty much take it like, well, something could have shifted on the planet and caused these freaky natural disasters, or it could have been climate change. I don't know. So now these humans are all living down in the surface in these like glass domes, that the Undines don't like it because they're taking over like their space, and also they're taking over like the wildlife and everything like that, because they got some of these structures that are like metal, and it's causing like poison to their oceans, and so they don't like that. So the Undine basically kidnaps her and takes her to his place, and they get to know each other, and then they start to like fall for each other. And there's like these underlying things that are going on with these different communities and stuff like that underwater. So there's all that whole thing. I don't want to delve too much into it because then I'll be giving you all like spoilers and stuff. But then the second one had to do with like when it comes to the prequel that was a part of that series, The Lovely Dark. You had Emma Hamm, Juliet Cross, and Zoe Draven. Now, I really liked Wave Song. That was the prequel to this. So this was years before Argus and Mina got together. So you had Wave Song, where it has Ember, his name's Ember, and Alice. So Alice and her father are ocean explorers, but their planet is dealing with a lot of catastrophes on the surface. So humans decide to start creating these underwater cities so the human race can continue to survive. Unfortunately, they're ruining the ocean ecosystems, and the creatures called Undines that live in the ocean don't want humans there messing up their home. So Alice goes out on a small sub to check out ocean life, and she runs across an Undine named Ember. So she's fascinated with him, and he's equally with her. She has a small android bot that learns Ember's language, and she's able to communicate with him. So to me, it was a sweet story because you have these two come together knowing that, the chances of them being together forever are kind of slim. And so they take a chance with each other so they could be together. It was really sweet. I really enjoyed that one. And it helped to give a little bit more backstory there was a storyline in Whispers of the Deep where they talked about Argus finding skulls or skeletal structure of a human woman and an Undine in an embrace. And that was basically that couple that was in the prequel. They obviously passed away, and he was holding her at the time. So either she died and then he died next to her and he cradled her body, or I don't know. But they had died near this area. So it was a really sweet story. So with the third one, that one there was talking about Song of the Abysses. They take the general's daughter, because this general's like this military guy, he's a fucking asshole. And so the other Undyne, who doesn't like humans either, his name is Dios, he decides to kidnap Anya. Now, Anya really doesn't want to be near her father either because she can't stand him. And so she's hard of hearing. She basically, I think the one side of her ear is like completely deaf, and the other side she might hear a little bit, but it's not much. She's mostly deaf because she had gotten, there was a blast that happened inside of their dome area, and it caused her to lose her hearing because of it. And so they want to destroy Alpha, and all the bad people, people who have power and stuff like that, all of them want to, they want to tear down Alpha because they just want to have it to where they're not starting a fight with them, So it was pretty good. I really liked that one. And with the next one, okay, the next things I'm going to talk about is a series that I went and started reading, where this whole series is basically guys in college who, they're athletes, but they're also dads. Either they get a woman pregnant in college and become a dad, or it like another way, So for the books on that series I liked, so I think it was like the first, second, and I think the third one were all, ones I liked. I think it was the fourth book I wasn't a fan of, and then I got the fifth book. So there was like 5 books in that series. One of them was like a dud for me, but the rest of them I liked, and they all were, like I said, had to do with like learning they were a dad. Other ones, where they accidentally, got one of the heroines pregnant. So yeah, that was that series. I really liked that one. I don't want to go into each one. I'll just skip over that. But I really liked that one. And then the next book I liked was As an Earl Desires by Lorraine Heath. That one there had to do with a guy who he was a teacher, and he finds out that he's the next in line. Let me find it, if it's around here somewhere. Because I'm trying to find like where I read it. Okay, this was The Lost Lords, book number 1. So Lady Camilla was married to the Earl that ended up dying. He died. And so she came from poverty. When she was little, she was the former Countess's companion at 14. And upon the Countess's death, the elderly Earl married Camilla when she was 16 years old. So the aging Earl wasn't a good man, and he passed away, leaving no heir behind to inherit the title. So it went to the next person in his line. So Archie, the new Earl, is a former teacher. He never thought that he'd take on the title of Lord, Saxey? And when he meets Lady Camilla, he is instantly attracted to her and wants her for his countess. He wants to marry for love, and Lady Camilla is tasked with finding a woman to suit the Lord. Lady Camilla wants to marry a duke so she can use the funds for her charity work. She doesn't want to marry a man who wants children because she believes that she's barren. So she's like, why would I marry a man who wants kids if I can't give it to him? And so I really enjoyed this book. You can see how much longing Archie had for Camilla and how much he wanted her. he was very patient with her because you could see how closed off she was. I said, Lady Camilla has secrets she can't read, and her husband physically abused her, which left her scars. She kept pushing Lord Saxey away, but he slowly kept challenging her and pushing her to open herself up to him. I said, it was a sweet romance. That's why I ended up giving it 5 stars, because Lord Saxey was, the new Lord Saxey was very kind to her and treated her very well. And I really enjoyed that one. Okay. The next is Her Villain, which I need to find it. Where I wrote it down. This one here is more of a dark romance, like set in like historical times. So it's like a dark historical. This one was good. I really enjoyed this one. So I gave this a 4. And I don't think I want to read this whole series because this is book number 6. So we got the character of Calliope. So she goes by Callie and David. So Callie has been working as a prostitute for 9 months when the brothel she works at gets shut down. So she needs money, so she tries to get hired somewhere else. And when she comes home one day, she sees that the money she has been saving is gone. So she texts the man, Brooke, who is running the place, who has been running the place, when a man shows up. David is a very cold man. He doesn't show a lot of emotion. He sees the prostitute and decides to hire her to warm his bed. He sets a strict schedule and doesn't like to deviate from it. His first night with her, he brings her to pleasure multiple times, and he hasn't been satisfied like that in a long time. So he decides to keep her in his home until a certain time. In the meantime, she takes a job in a tea shop. I said the more time they spend together, the more David starts to feel things he's never felt before, and doesn't realize the feelings either. The relationship is more a BDSM relationship, so Callie likes it when David is in control and he becomes more possessive over her. So I really enjoyed this one. It was different from what I normally read from historicals. And yeah, I'll continue to read that series there. That was pretty good. And we'll see. Because, yeah, I really liked that one, but there were some other ones that looked kind of, not as appetizing. So I'm going to skip over those ones, but that one was pretty good. So the next one I'll talk about is Cleo Evans. This is Broken Beginnings, Citrus Cove number 1. This was pretty good. I liked this one a lot. So there's content warning for murder, battery, gun violence. There's bullying, consensual non-consent, breeding kink, and exhibitionism. So we got Haley and Cameron. So Haley's living in Baltimore when she witnesses her neighbor being murdered. She tries to help the woman, but she dies. Before the killer flees, he tells her that she's next. Kaylee's went next. Fearing for her life now, she decides to head back home to Citrus Cove, a small town in Texas. She goes from staying with her grandmother, Honey, who raised her, and her sister, Sarah. So she bumps into Cam, who she has hated for years. He used to bully her all the time. Yeah, he viciously bullied her. He was a real major dirtbag. They show exactly how he was years ago, and then now it's like he's completely changed as a person. And so she really wants to avoid him, but he's grown up and he apologizes to her for being such an asshole. Because, he realized, years later he actually really liked her, but he didn't know how to express it. So they quickly get sexually involved with each other, and while they fall for one another, a killer's still out there stalking her. So I enjoyed this book, but I did feel like Cameron and Haley got together way too fast. She forgave him too quickly, in my opinion. I wanted him to grovel a bit more. Also, I felt like this had insta-lust, and I would have appreciated if they held off a little longer with having sex with each other. Other than that, I'm looking forward to the next book in the series. And I did really enjoy this one. There, like I said, had a few issues with it, but I really enjoyed it. It was different, you know. I liked the whole, you know, stalking, you know, and everything like that of her, you know, being like threatened and everything like that. And then him is like saying like he'll protect her. I really enjoyed that one. I thought it was really well done. Like I said, a few issues, but other than that, I really enjoyed it. So the next book in this that I liked this year was My Favorite Kidnapper. This was great. I really enjoyed this one. So it's called, the series is called My Favorite Book Number 1 by Melanie Moreland. So the characters are Dante and Brianna. So there's content warning for virgin heroin, battery, assault, kidnapping, and drugging. So Dante's at the wedding of his goddaughter, Carolina. It's Dante's younger brother. It's Carolyn's stepdad. And so Dante is in a room and notices this beautifully designed cake and decides to eat some of the cupcakes, a part of the wedding desserts. He has a huge sweet tooth. So a woman comes in, scolds him, and she ends up being the baker of the cakes. That night at the wedding, he sees her again and kisses her. He nicknames her Little B. It was really sweet that his little kept calling her like Little B. I liked that one. I thought it was really sweet. Because her work costume had yellow and black stripes. So Brianna's 26 and grew up in the foster care system. She's working at a bakery to try and pay off her school debt and also trying to get her business off the ground. So she meets Dante and he makes her feel things she wasn't expecting. He finds out where she works and goes to see her. So she teases him and calls him old man. You know, he's 38. So that's what she keeps naming him. Like, you know, she's like, oh, you're just an old man. And so, you know, she mainly did it because, you know, he was like, you know, what are you talking about? Old? I'm only 38, you know. And so he tells her he wants to keep seeing her. So she tries to avoid him by heading off to a cabin for a few days for like a vacation. Instead, he thwarts her plans, drugs her with a sleeping pill, and whisks her off to Italy. Yeah, it was like, dang. Yeah. She's mad at first, but the more time she spends with him, the more she enjoys being around him. He had such charisma and such a way that she couldn't help not liking him, you know? So I said I love this book. I loved how the heroine refused to swear, so she would come up with these interesting terms. I also loved how she would say things back to him that would crack me up, like calling him old man. He loves her baked goods and her sassy mouth, so he falls fast and hard for her. And it takes her a little bit to kind of like, you know, realize that she has feelings for him too. She's a little bit more stubborn, but yeah, I really enjoyed that one a lot. I thought it was really good. So the other books I'm going to talk about are books from this, and it's not the same series, but it's the same author. I have them all over the place right now. So the last series I'm going to talk about, these are all by the same author. She either goes by J. Wolfe or Julia Wolfe. So the first one is basically from it's called Savage Academy. And that one there is basically one of these schools where it's like a private school. So you pay for your children to go there. So it's basically people either have wealth. So this one here, Jump On 3, has it to where the heroine has autism, and her family are really shitheads. You know, like they really treat her like crap. The only one who's honestly there for her is her sister. And so she has like these routines, you know, usually with anybody who's like autism, a lot of people have a set of routines they like to do, maybe favorite places they like to go to all the time, stuff like that. So she's got like these little rituals that she likes to do. So I gave this one 5 stars. So we got Evelyn and Ivan. So Evelyn is an atypical young lady living in a typical world, because that's basically what you call people who have autism, is they're atypical. Her and her twin sister go to Savage Academy, which is a high school for wealthy teens. She tries to go about her day-to-day life as best she can, but Evelyn has certain rituals and quirks she does, and unfortunately it's those quirks that gets her looked at weirdly by other high school girls. One in particular, Layla, that girl's a little bitch. I could not stand that girl. She is a bully, and she gets Evelyn to do her homework and projects. Layla also loves to call Evelyn Creepalin. So Evelyn enjoys to be by herself a lot. Yeah, I noticed that about like autistic kids. A lot of them are very much like loners, or, you know, like introverts. They like to be by themselves a lot. It's hard for them to be social, or know certain social cues, things like that. They kind of go to the, you know, to the beat of their own drum. And that's basically what it is with my youngest daughter. She's like, she goes to the beat of her own drum. You know, I love her. I love her independence, you know, in that she doesn't look like that things bother her, you know, when it comes to like socializing and everything. But maybe like deep down inside, she wants to socialize and she just doesn't know how to, but she doesn't know how to express it. But I love her independence. You know, she can do stuff a lot on her own, like when, especially when it comes to like my eldest very much likes to have someone around her. She likes friends, where, you know, my youngest is very much like, meh, I don't have friends, I don't care. And I'm like, good for you, girl. You know, so I respect her independence. You know, I very much like to be by myself too. Yeah, she has her own little ways of doing things, and she likes to stack books. You know, like whenever her little books are over here, she likes to stack her books and stuff. So she's got her little rituals that she likes to do. And I try to keep her organized, you know, like I try to tell her, like, let's organize our books, let's put them in certain places, you know, so we can find them and all that stuff. So I try to teach her like organization and keeping things in order, keeping things together so you can find them, where my eldest is very much a catastrophe when it comes to order and organization. So my children are basically the complete opposite. You know, like I said, my youngest very much likes order. She likes putting her books like in, you know, numbers, and I'm like, you know, girl after my own heart, you know. But my eldest is very much a tornado that just came through the room. So, you know, that's pretty much how it is. So, so Evelyn enjoys to be by herself a lot. And she also loves to have a particular room in the library where she can study. So she ends up having someone steal her room. That's how she thinks of it. You know, she thinks of it as her room. And I'm like, yeah, that would be like my youngest, you know. So she starts leaving notes on the door of the study room. Her and the other person go back and forth with each other until eventually he gives her his phone number, and they start texting back and forth. And so Evelyn has no idea she's texting Ivan. It's her sister's ex-crush. So she, you know, when she finds out, she's like, well, you know, she's attracted to Ivan. She's had a crush on him, but she didn't want to pursue it because she knew that her sister liked him too. And she's like, you know, chick code. You don't go and like, you don't sniff where someone else is eating, you know? And that's basically what she thought of it as. It's like, I don't want to go and pursue him knowing that my sister liked him. You know, it would, you know, her relationship with her sisters, that's her bond, you know. What's the term? Chicks before dicks, you know? So that's basically what it is with her. It's like she's loyal to her sister, you know, loyal to her sister. So Ivan is a high school student who is friends with Evelyn's sister, but he had a crush on Evelyn and has watched her for some time now. So when he gets a chance to have more time with her, he absolutely loves it, because he never thought he'd have a chance with hanging out with her and talking more than a few words with her. So Ivan absolutely adored Evelyn and would do anything for her. I said I loved how hung up he was for her, where Evelyn would have these constant doubts that Ivan wouldn't continue to see her anymore. You know, because she was so like bullied and just treated badly over the years, you know, besides like the people outside of her family, but her family herself, they sucked. You know, especially like their older brother, that dude was a dipshit. Oh, I couldn't stand him. He was a douchebag. So I said I absolutely loved reading this book. I didn't get any flaws that stood out to me, especially when it came to autism traits. Like, you know, my youngest daughter has autism. I said, because autism is considered as a spectrum, you will have some traits that are very much the same and some that are completely different. So the heroine has autism, for the content warnings, female bullying, small secret identity, and the hero falls first. So this one here, like I said, I didn't see anything in the novel that stood out to me that would be something that's not an autism trait. So I thought that was done really well, because that's the thing, like, you can have a book about autism, but if it's done badly, people are going to point it out. People are going to come after you when it comes to those types of books. So the next two were part of Savage U, the Savage U Academy. So this one here is a college. So I loved Sweet Like Poison. This is book number 3 of Savage U. And then you had Real Like Daydreams, which is book 4. I really enjoyed both of these. I loved book 3 more than I liked book 4, but I still enjoyed these ones. So with Sweet Like Poison, you have this character of Elena, which is my favorite character out of, you know, Julia Wolf's, all of her heroines. Elena's the best one, because she has such a character arc throughout the series. Like, she started in the Savage High. She went to high school and she was a bit of a mean girl, and she really grew up a lot, you know, like when she went to college. And so Elena, nicknamed Elsa and Ellie by Lachlan, that's what he calls her. Like, her hair is like really like almost white because it's so blonde, that he was reminded by Frozen, you know, so that's why he calls her Elsa. And Ellie's kind of like more of like his sensual way of, you know, talking to her. Like, because when he's attracted to her, he calls her Ellie. When he's mad at her, he calls her Elsa. So he likes being called Locke to his friends. So it's definitely more of a dislike to lovers, you know. People say enemies to lovers. So the content warning is talk of sexual assault, mental abuse, school bullying, toxic relationships, family, emotional trauma. So this has got to be the best college romance I've read in years. So I DNF'd this book last year because I wasn't feeling it, but I decided to try it again when I kept hearing a couple of BookTube friends who couldn't stop talking about this. So Elena is a former bully, bad girl in high school. She's changed her ways and is trying to be a better person. She comes from a wealthy household, but behind that money is a family who has issues. I said all families do. I said Elena has to deal with an emotionally unstable mother and a father who dotes on his wife, but also is a workaholic who would rather thrust his wife's issues on his daughter rather than dealing with them himself. So Lachlan also comes from damaged people, so he doesn't want to fall for anyone while he's in college. So when he starts hanging out with Elena, due to them having friends in common, he gives her the silent treatment and brooding looks. So one night Elena gets drunk and starts to dance on a table, and Lachlan shuts that down quick by picking her up and putting her on his shoulder and brings her back to her home. I said, oh yeah, they're also neighbors, so they see each other all the time. I said, after they start dancing around each other, eventually the line they were on snaps and they have sex, and Lachlan gets Elena to organize for the first time. So this was an emotional roller coaster, and I thoroughly enjoyed the ride. So it was a lot of Elena used to date this guy that was a real douchebag. Like, he would grape girls in school, and she found out that this guy either attempted to, grape some girls or did it. And he had, he used to do different stuff and cheat on her, and she just kept putting up with it until finally she stopped doing it. And she sees him again after how many years? And after like a year or so of like not being with each other. And so he really, like, he's at a diner and he's talking to another girl, like flirting with her. And so she goes up to the woman and tells her, like, hey, this guy is a douchebag. He has raped other girls. Stay away from him. Like, get away from him. And so basically warns the girl away from him. And so, of course, he gets pissed. And he starts following Elena home, or following her down the street. And so she's kind of gunning it down the street, like speeding. And he ends up crashing in his car and dies. So after he passes away, she has a sense of guilt, like, she's the one that caused it. And I'm like, girl, he chased you. He was a douchebag. He deserved it. He deserved it. And so she's kind of dealing with that kind of issue. But the more she's around Lachlan, the more, like, these feelings that she's never really felt before start to surface. And the problems that she's had with sex kind of gets corrected with him. Like, once they have sex, he makes her orgasm, and she's never felt that way before. She's never had that with, like, the douchebag she dated. He never got her there. And so once, he gets her to, have like this really good pleasure in bed, it changes her around, it shifts her around. And so it goes from there. I really liked this couple a lot. They grew up a lot in this book. Like, they evolved and matured a lot during, like, them, seeing each other and different things like that, things they had to overcome. I really enjoyed this one a lot. I'd say this probably was one of my favorites out of the year, was this one here. There were a few others that I definitely would say, like, it was a favorite. But this one was, I really enjoyed this one. And obviously this is something that a lot of people like, is they really like this one, that the author decided to create a spin-off series with this couple. So I think it's called The Kelly Ranch. And so I think that book is coming out. I have to check that one out. I will say I'm not always a fan of, like, spin-offs where the couple's now older and they had kids, and now it's the children's love stories, and that having them find a love, partner and stuff like that. I'm not always a fan of those, because sometimes the authors don't do the past characters justice. I'll see. I will say, like, I do want to read it because I really enjoyed Elena and Lachlan out of all of the couples. So I'm kind of leery going into the other book, because I'm afraid I'm not going to like Elena and Lachlan as adults with children, So yeah, I'm a little leery about getting into that one, but I do want to check it out, because I do think that Julia Wolf, she does create a lot of emotional depth with her characters. Not all of them are ones I like, but I will say they were interesting stories when I did read them. But I have favorites of hers, and this one is definitely a favorite of mine. I really, really enjoyed that. So the last book I'm going to talk about, because I got to go pick up my children from school. This one's Real Like Daydreams. So this is Savage You, book number 4. So we got the characters of Serafina and Julian. So Julian I really liked as a character. There's talk of mental health issues and self-harm in here. So it's fake dating, and there's sex toys in the bedroom and stuff. So Serafina has been slowly getting over a breakup with her douchebag ex, so he cheated on her with his female best friend. So she's in her college marching band, and she wants to be the lead drummer. So Julian has been dealing with a lot of pain in therapy. He got hit by an SUV and almost died in, like, a previous novel. It was a part of I think it was a part of the Savage High I think it was Savage High when they were in high school, and now he's in college, so he's dealing with a lot of pain, a lot of therapy, for like he almost died. He was on the brink of death, and it's a miracle that he actually survived. He had pushed his friend out of the way because he saw a car was coming, so he pushed his friend out of the way, and he took the hit. So he had saved his best friend, but he's dealing with a lot of like mental issues now, because of it, because he feels like, no one is going to ever love him. And he's kind of having like this issues with his friend. He has these different feelings when it comes to his friend, but he still cares and loves his friend, but he's just dealing with a lot of issues. And his friend doesn't know how to handle him now, like than how he was before. So, so he has to rely on a cane most of the time, and his health insurance no longer covers physical therapy. So he's been dealing with a lot. Also, he's depressed and doesn't really want to do a lot of socializing, and he doesn't like to show off his face because he is badly scarred. On the one side of his face, he's like badly scarred, so he likes to constantly wear a hood and cover himself. So Serafina needs a fake boyfriend to help her make it as lead drummer, so Julian agrees to help her. Like, they become friends, and said, "This was so sweet. I felt for both of these characters. They've dealt with not supportive family members, so it has affected their mental health. So Julian does keep a secret from her for most of the book. So when she finds out the truth, she's upset. I also enjoyed the fact that she didn't linger with being upset and understood why he kept the secret. I really enjoyed that book a lot because he goes through a lot of emotional things with him, and overcoming like this sense of depression, and like, do I even want to be here anymore on this planet? So he goes through a lot of it, and she helps him. She's more of like the sunshine to his grumpy, and she starts to open up more things to him, and that I really enjoyed. And he even helps her with things too. So they're definitely, definitely partners, and I really enjoyed that one a lot. So this one here, I didn't want to go too in depth because I didn't want the video to be super long. But yeah, I really enjoyed those books. I will keep reading, the author Julia Wolf. One of her series I really just didn't care for, but all the other books that most of them I have enjoyed. There's a few here and there that were like, okay, but I still enjoyed them. I may have had a little issues with them, but they were pretty decent overall. So yeah, next year I'm going to really try to make an effort to read more historical romances, because I do have a lot of physical copies that I still need to read. Also, there's ones I've been trying to read more of that are through indie published. There's a lot more indie published historical authors out there that you really need to like pay attention to and hype up, because some of them are like really good, that I don't want them to be ignored, because a lot of people tend to ignore historical romances lately. So I've been really trying to like hype up as many of them as I can find, that and read those, and then kind of get back into my Lorraine Heath ones that I have. Like, I have a ton of those still, so I want to get back into Lorraine Heath too, listen to some more like audiobooks that I can find, for that author, and basically other audiobooks I can find that are like, trade published from ones I own, I currently own. I can get through an audiobook quicker than I can physically read it, so it just helps me better. And then at nighttime I can read an ebook. I get through books quicker that way. If I'm doing like daytime audiobook, nighttime physically reading, like on my Kindle, I can get through a good amount of books that way. So I gotta find more. There's an audiobook subscription I have that is changing a bit, and I don't like it. I think they're going to like one book a month, which I'm like, that ain't gonna work for me. So if it changes and I don't like it, I may cancel that one audiobook subscription. It's called Everand. I may cancel that one. next year if they change it to where I don't like it. You know, that's like that one credit system. And I'm like, I'm getting charged how much money and you're only allowing me one? Fuck you. No, no. Fuck that. I will go with Anyplay, because at least with Anyplay, you can listen to like how many books before they kind of like slow you down and stuff like that. So I prefer that. You know, I don't mind listening to like 3 or 4 audiobooks a month. It does help me get through my books quicker, and see which physical books I want to keep and which physical books I want to just donate, you know? So I hate that they're now going to like a 1 credit system for Everand, and I'm like, man, fuck you. That's why I don't have audio. I don't have the Audible, you know, for like Amazon, because they only give you 1 credit a month. And I'm like, but you're paying how much a month for that? And I just like, fuck that. It just seems way too expensive for only like 1 book, you know? Screw that. And then you got to purchase more, you know? No. I know like audiobooks, you know, they want to get paid and all that stuff. I totally get it. But I'm like, to me, no, it's not worth it. It's not worth it when it comes to a subscription. So no, I'll just stick with the 1 subscription and then just do it that way. And if I have to read that book physically, I guess I'll have to read that book physically. I just think it's like they screw over people who are main audiobook readers. Like say if somebody's blind and they can't read, you know, and they don't want to read Braille, they have an audiobook. And now you're basically screwing those people who have no choice but to listen to audiobooks because they can't physically read. So that's what it seems like. It seems like it's just a greedy business. So, but yeah, that's it for this one here. Hopefully, you know, I like more books next year. I'll have some really good 5 stars. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. And I will see you all on the next video. All right. Bye.